Namaste, salam alaikum, sastri akal, shalom, and hello from Queens, New York. Thank you, Henry, for that really generous introduction. And I'm so glad to be in friendship with you and honored to be here in this dialogue today. I'm Aminta Kilawan-Narine. I'm a lawyer by profession, a community organizer by passion, and I identify as an Indo-Caribbean Hindu, specifically from the Sanatan tradition. And I'm a co-founder of Sadhana, Coalition of Progressive Hindus, a nonprofit that was founded in 2010 to merge the values at the heart of social justice with those that we believe to be the heart of Hinduism. I'm also a gender justice activist, and I founded another nonprofit called South Queens Women's March, hence the People's Republic of South Queens. So today is actually the first time I'm going to be reading poetry out loud. I read poetry in my own quietude, but never out loud for others. And the poetry that I'm reading is actually, it's a song. So my ancestors, as mentioned, are from the Caribbean and, even beyond that from India. And the author I'm going to be reading from, I Even Regret Night. It's called The Holy Songs of Demerara. So you all may be familiar with Holi. It is a celebration of the Festival of Colors that Hindus celebrate around the world, where we play with colors, and it's very bright and beautiful. But in Guyana, which is where my parents are from, Holi is called Pagua, and that's the case in a lot of Caribbean countries. And it's called Pagua after the holy month of Pagun, a month of harvest, and what will come is the festival of spring. And so that is very much what Holi is. And there's many stories around why this festival is celebrated. I put a link in the chat because you'll hear me reference Krishna, who is one of the gods, one of the deities in the Hindu tradition that's referenced in the poem. The poem is written by Lal Bihari Sharma, who was an indentured servant who migrated to the Caribbean. And it's to me very powerful because Lal Bihari Sharma was a worker on the plantations. And often we'll hear about our origin story as a people, but we won't hear from the workers themselves. And so this is told from his perspective and was translated by Rajiv Mahabir, who is also an author. And the poem is called Chautal. The reason it's called Chautal is because that's somewhat of a generic name, actually. Chautal is the type of song that this is. And I'll say a little bit about that if I have time after I read the poem. In the forest, the papiha bird's epics stave off sleep. It's at midnight. Separation from my love torments me. Without him, I have no peace. My youth wastes. Pagun is supposed to be a blissful month, but without Krishna, how can I enjoy it? Should the day breeze blow, it's blistering. I even regret night. All my friends gather to compose chautal songs, knocking drums, a beer in the hands, and colored water. My pain waits. What fate that I take such a ruinous life and squander it? Lal Bihari says, fair one, with peace comes happiness. So this poem is a chautal. It's actually a song. And yes, the title is Chautal. The author is Lal Bihari Sharma, and I can write this in the chat afterwards. And it's Chautal, I want to share with you how it's used now in 2021, because it hasn't died. And it's pretty miraculous that that's the case, because Lal Bihari, like many at the time who wrote this, would have struggled to retain his identity, his religious identity, his cultural identity, the language. I only speak English, and the language has been lost over the course of time. But these are the songs, and actually before I was an activist, these are the songs that we were taught to retain our culture and our identity and hold on to that. And it really is emblematic of the great bhakti or devotion of that time. So these songs are still sung. They're very playful in nature, and usually, even though they're actually very painful, but they're still sung in our temples in New York City, for example. And I actually am a singer. I sing Hindu hymns, and that was what I did before I was a community advocate. But I never chose to sing these songs because they're really loud and raucous. And when I was a child, I used to sit in the back of the temple and I couldn't control my laughter. I don't know why, it would just come over me. And you just have that laughter that you just can't stop. And you're like, oh my God, what do I do? I can't stop laughing. So that was me when I was a child. And then as I got older, I just also still couldn't participate in singing this, but I also would just observe and watch my community celebrate our tradition. And I would get goosebumps just because I find it super powerful. So this is actually, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And I'm going to show you an example. This is my It's a lot louder in person than what you see on the screen. So that is Chautal singing, and that would be what this poem turned into for our people in Queens, New York, and all over the world. And I'm just so proud. And the link that I shared earlier is of the Pagwa Parade. So every year around, actually next month, there's, I mean, I don't know, given the pandemic, but there's a parade. And Krishna, who I referenced in the poem, is featured here dressed up. It's a young person in our community who dresses up as one of the deities. And I will share the poem in the chat.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Elzana, and I live in Strand. Strand is actually a very small town in Cape Town, South Africa. And I've had the privilege to grow up between the mountains and the beach. So I can actually hear the beach and smell the beach and see the sunrise. Now, I can actually cover a lot of myself, but there is something that I would like to share tonight that is very important to me. This was for me a life-changing moment. And as you guys know, I don't know if you guys read my bio, but I grew up in the apartheid ages. And I was a very small girl. And when I was in primary school, after they've released Mandela and he became president of South Africa, they had the Rugby World Cup in 1995. And they picked 5 from our school. And when we got to the field, there were so many kids, and we were part of the opening of the World Cup 1995. And for me, that was an eye-opener to see the world as one. There were Japanese, there were different people I've never seen, people I never thought existed. And for me, that was a powerful experience because it showed me that the world is such a bigger place. And there is so many different cultures outside. I never even knew it because of the way I was raised. Like in my days, I could only buy a white Barbie. There was only white Barbies in the shops. So it's actually funny now because we've grown so much. We've grown so much that we've actually made peace with the past, and we are learning from the past as well. Now, what makes poetry for me so special is the fact that both on my mother's side and my father's side, my grandmothers and great-grandmothers, they all ate from the soil. They had gardens. And I was raised to have a relationship with soil because soil is a powerful source of life, a very powerful source of life. And this has inspired me to write The Voice of Creation, because the voice of creation is almost like God speaking through earth to us and showing us how much he loves us and to what extent he went to provide us and to how much he cares about our existence, because our existence matters. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot because I'm very excited to share this poem and I'm very blessed. And I want to give God all the glory and thank you for inviting me to this beautiful session. I am very excited. I hope you guys enjoy my expression. And because of my heritage and my ancestry, because our ancestry is starting to get extinct from my side, and we are fighting for our lost languages. Like in English, it's good evening. In Afrikaans, as it goeienaand. In our community, they will say awe. So there's a lost language that people doesn't know about. So I'm very happy and excited to share this beautiful expression. Thank you. The voice of creation. I don't know if Papa O is gonna play the poem.
Is it not true that I, Mother Nature, operates in perfect harmony because I reflect the nature of my Creator? Does the sun not rise as it should, and the moon not make its full circle? Does my breast milk not sustain life itself, including sustaining the very elements that contribute to even your wealth, because all the gold and all the silver comes from my soil? For my position in the galaxy requires that I'm exactly in the precise degree I should be at that second. For the stars, not one missing or out of its place, the sound of the wind, the sound of children laughing, the sound of a mighty storm, the sounds of birds chirping, the sounds of crickets at night, the sounds of a crackling fire. Is this not the sounds of my creation? For I am synergistically created to aggressively sustain life itself and to maintain its balance. In other words, to maintain its harmony. Why, when receiving harmony daily, is this an expression at the least among you? Why are my trees uprooted? Why are my rivers dry? Why are my animals extinct? Why so many deaths and hunger among you? Why are my birds fleeing? Why are your women weeping? Through my loving creation and power, haven't you learned that love cannot identify the poor, rich, nationality, religion, beliefs, or race? My breast milk, my water, flows for all. When will you realize that harmony is what keeps me balanced? For me, Mother Nature, to operate in harmony, the whole galaxy must operate in harmony, so that you can enjoy a beautiful night sky, starlit, for your visual stimulation, and to lift the darkness that comes with my night, for you to enjoy a beautiful sunrise. The whole galaxy must operate in perfect harmony, because what man can uproot the trees? What man can disturb sleeping volcanoes? What man can dry up the rivers? What man? Mankind. For harmony is a reflection of who is in control. Harmony is a reflection of oneness. Harmony is a reflection of healing. Harmony is a reflection of restoration. Everything around you, from the bottom of the sea to the wide open galaxy, including you, must operate in harmony, because to achieve the best result for the sake of mankind through many challenges and a global weeping, a global lockdown became your defense mechanism. You were aggressive to save your race. You were aggressive to save your future. You were aggressive to save your purpose. You were aggressive to save your existence. Why should you not exist? The wide open galaxy has no reason to exist, for you are the reason for its existence. You are the reason why trees exist, majestic mountains exist, the blue skies exist, why I, Earth, Mother Nature, exist. Fight for me as I fight for you. Be aggressive about my existence as I am about yours. For harmony is not only a word, not only an expression. It's like the secret ingredient to birth compassion. For your true reflection is in me and mine in yours, both created in perfect harmony. Like a fetus in its womb, I carry you. For all you have, everything comes from my soil, comes from my dust, and returns to my dust.
Yeah, that is my poem. I wrote it specially for this event. That is a poem that I cannot explain my relationship with soil and the understanding of how the universe works. And the knowledge I've gained is because I went searching for who I truly am. I went searching for who is my ancestors. My grandfather is actually Scottish. And so on my mother's side, half of my family looks white. So I've had a very adventurous upbringing. And from my father's side, my Oma Katie, she was a herbalist. She used to heal people with herbs. And you don't hear and see these things anymore because our culture, our heritage is dying. I always say that if people understand the power of soil, we will never have world hunger, ever. We will never have. If you give someone a bread and 5 plants, that 5 plants will feed 5 generations. And it's important that people understand the relationship that we must have with earth, with nature, because nature needs us and we need Mother Nature. She only knows how to look after us. When she was created, she was specially created for us. She doesn't know anything else. And I've really learned to love my surroundings, animals, and it's sad to see that so many animals are being extinct, especially the rhinos by us in South Africa. It's very sad to see. So I hope that this message spreads a message of true harmony all over the globe, and that people can understand that harmony isn't just something you say, it's actually something that we must start doing. And we must start living in harmony, not only with each other, but also with Mother Nature, and bring balance so that we can have less tsunamis, and that we at the moment, it's so hot by us. Sometimes we have to carry water to the plants because we can't handle to see them so dry, because that's how much we love our plants. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here. So as you know, my name is Anastacia. My pronouns, as you'll see in the Zoom list, are she and her. I am doing this on very short notice, so I'm perhaps a little ill-prepared. Those who know me would perhaps say that I'm at my best when I'm ill-prepared, and thus I make a habit of being so. Nonetheless, I'm really glad to be here and to be able to participate in this really beautiful initiative, and to be able to share and to experience some perspectives that are so vastly different and in some ways so similar to my own. I am going to read for you, I'll say this evening, it's not evening for some of you, but I'll read a piece of poetry that I wrote actually for the Pride Shabbat service that a synagogue here in Cape Town, which I call home, held last year. And I'll reflect a little bit after I've read it. This is partly because I didn't have the time to find something more fitting, but also just because it is a piece that speaks to a lot of the feelings and a lot of the emotions at the intersection that I occupy in terms of identity and faith. So this piece is called Before the Fall. Is love that looks different worth less than the love I saw growing up on soap operas and in movies and on the covers of brochures in waiting rooms and on the sides of bus stops? I was told by the soap operas and the movies and the brochures and the bus stops, and the teachers and the politicians and my neighbors and my friends and my family, that my love that looks different offends them, that my love that looks different is obscene, that my love that looks different is an affront to the divine, that my love that looks different must be punished or fixed or snuffed out. What will become if two women kiss or two men walk hand in hand, or if people express who they know themselves to be and refuse to feel guilty? What will become if we who are broken refuse to be discarded alongside the rest of society's unwanted things? If we who are unworthy of love have the nerve to love each other, or worse yet, ourselves? What will become if we refuse to be judged or to be shamed or to let you raise your fists against us? If we refuse to be cast out or stripped of our humanity or our self-esteem or our love? If we refuse to lay any more of our siblings to rest, zichronot lemahapecha, may each of their memories be for a revolution, then the fabric of society will unravel and its foundation will give way, and the walls will crumble, and love that looks different will not look so different anymore. Perhaps it is true that pride goeth before the fall. So I wrote this piece in preparation for the Pride Shabbat service that I've mentioned, and I don't have the time or the will or the inclination right now to bore you with all of the details of my own personal history. Heaven knows it's out there on the internet if you just Google my name. But a big part of my background revolves around my upbringing in a home that was culturally Jewish, in terms of observance, quite secular. The school that I went to was rather orthodox. I grew up in a time when we weren't as empowered as we are today in terms of language and vocabulary and resources and representation. And we didn't speak as much about identity, and especially queer identity. And it left me feeling quite confused in my youth, trying to piece together the understanding of who I am. And eventually, when I'd come to terms or started to come to terms with my identity, I was working at the time, I'm a medical doctor, I was working at the time in a family practice in Johannesburg. And a lot of the population that we served was part of the Jewish community, as I was. And through a series of circumstances, I was outed in the community without my consent. The agency over my narrative was taken from me, and of course there was backlash. And some of the words that were thrown around was, "You're an affront to God," or "You're an abomination." And it was difficult for me to understand what I was hearing, that on some level we hold that human beings are created in Hebrew, B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of the divine. And on the other hand, being told that you're broken and that you're defective for who you are, and that you're an affront to this spiritu mundi, or the divinity that is within all of us. And for me, that manifested originally with a split, in fact, from my religious identity and my faith. I said Judaism and I are seeing other people. And I realized after a period of reflection that it had left not just a wound, but a void. And that I felt like I'd been forced to sacrifice one facet of my identity because of another facet. And I couldn't understand why the two had to be in conflict. And it was only through support from the right kind of community and a lot of introspection and a lot of growth and maturity that I came to understand that what had actually happened was that the people around me had chosen to couch their own personal prejudice under the guise of religion. And I realized that this is an act of cowardice, to palm off the hatred in your own heart and attribute it to some higher power, which I think many of us will agree goes against so many of the fundamental philosophical tenets of faith, and do unto others and act with respect and compassion and through a lens of ethics. And I understood that no one was going to answer the questions for me. I had to define faith for myself. And if there was some aspect of my faith that I was being told is in conflict, some part of my faith that says there is something wrong with people on the basis of who they are, I have the power to reject it and to say, this is not my Judaism. And that's what this poem represents to me. So the concept of pride and the concept of the deadly sins, which is not a very Jewish concept, but perhaps some will relate to it, and the way that we see pride and the connotations and the baggage. And for me, I want to reframe it, and I want to say that pride is the refutation of the guilt and the shame and the hatred, and it is the visibility, it is the representation, it is in fact love. So I'm very grateful to have been able to share this with you today. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Sat Sri Akal, Salam, Namaste and Shalom. I was born and brought up in Glasgow from parents who came from India at the time of the partition in 1947. So I was raised in Glasgow in a Sikh family, and Sikhism is a religion which was founded on the principles of global interfaith, mutual inter-community respect and harmony. And the founders of Sikhism since 1469 defined and preached the principles of interfaith respect, dialogue and harmony, and also equality for all, including gender. And so women who were within the Sikh community, women have been afforded that equality since 1469. But actually growing up as a Sikh woman, a Sikh girl, and turning into a woman and learning about it all was very difficult, because the way it was within the culture and within the home, the equality was never seen for women. It was very, very difficult kind of navigating all of that and getting to a stage where you could read from the scriptures and fully understand what that equality meant for us on a level that we were able to take it forward. So hence my work has been very much focused on equality for women in all aspects. And so we founded the organisation Sikh Sanjog in 1989, and we have been running for 35 years nearly. And our work is based on this ethos of promoting the values of Sikhism within our work, because Sikhism isn't just like other religions. It's not just about the religious aspect, it is a way of life. And it teaches us to see everybody and view everybody as equal and as human beings, and not look past the skin colour, the caste, the traditions, the religious differences that people look at, and make those divisions become internal and external. And you're always looking at people. And nowadays I feel to myself that people do not see past those. And unfortunately the world has, although this social media and all of these things have become wonderful in some ways, and in some ways they have created so much disharmony amongst people. And so I looked to see what I could say. I've never written a poem. I've written poems, but never written anything to be published or spoken in public. So I looked to see what I could find, and I found this poem, and it's called The Spirit of the Sikh. And it was written between 1927 and 1930 by Professor Trishna Singh. And his whole life was passed. He wrote masses of work. And he held, he was in science of biochemistry. He held a professorship at the Imperial Forest Research Institute in Dehradun in India. And he wrote many poems, but this one I thought about it, and I thought this kind of struck me, because when I was looking at what was happening in India with the farmers, and these were farmers from all over India, from different backgrounds, different castes, different religions, and they had all come together to fight for a right that was theirs. And in the same way, you know, I kind of compared it with what we had been doing all our life through living and working and living within two cultures and having to stay within our own culture, but also be very much aware of what was happening outside our community and our lives. And it was a difficult journey because you become very confused and you're looking within and without, and you see people's lives changing and your own life is changing as well. But having to kind of stay within that fine line of not losing your own culture, because then listening to the previous speakers, people have had to go back and find their roots and find out where they came from, where we already had that there, but we were in danger of losing it. And that kind of is still continuing. And we have so many people that are still wondering, how did we get here? Where did we come from? And our roots are still in India and people still have contacts with families there. But there's a huge population of Sikhs and Sikh Gurdwaras, Sikh temples across the whole of the United Kingdom. And we're in Edinburgh, and we're a small community in Edinburgh, but we still practice that kindness, that humanity, that sharing of our culture. And the main sharing comes between when we're sharing our food and our spirituality with other people. So this, I will go on to my poem, and it is called The Spirit of the Sikh. What is your accomplishment, sir? Your eyes are red with the wine that sparkles in the cup of the sky, and your face is encarned with the unfading rose that no one has yet seen. I cannot even write my name. I am unlettered ploughman of the Punjab, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions, but do not be taken in by my ignorance and humility. When aroused, my wrath is terrible. With my raised hand, I tear the dynasties of tyrants like pieces of waste paper. I start new dynasties of kings whose rule would be kind to the children of man. In my side are numberless clouds that rain down and cleanse the earth, and in my tears, the great rivers that bless 1,000 generations of the man. I cannot even write my name. I am an unlettered ploughman of the Punjab, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions. But do not be afraid of me. I am as gentle as mother is to the child, as forgiving as the babe to the mother, as good as water is to the unclean body. I have the large white love that is in the heart of the sun, and I love you as the sun loves flowers of this earth. You have not seen my love, but you who have no eyes to see, I cannot even write my name. I am an unlettered ploughman of the Punjab, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions. I have no language, neither the stars nor the sky have it, nor can I reply. Come, I will show you what is hidden in me. Behind the veil, you and I are one. Have you seen yourself? There in my heart are you. There in my eyes are you. But do not fear me. Come, I shall massage your tired limbs. I shall cool you with the shade that is in my eyes. Come, I shall stroke your tresses and soothe their waves and comfort your weary soul. And comfort your weary soul. I am the unlettered ploughman of the Punjab, cannot even write my name, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions. I have no language, neither has the river, the cloud, nor the forest that dwells by the mountainside. Come, I shall show you the fountains that have burst in me and take you to the loveliest loneliness where the green leaf and the white ray hold quiet commerce. Come, I shall take you to a cave inside me where you will see what would make you speechless in joy and wonder, where the whole starry sky is gathered in a cave, where God dwells in toiling masses, but is never seen by any mortal eyes, neither he nor those lying at his feet. Thank you.
Today I'm going to read a poem that I wrote, and it's called Where is God? It's I've been writing poetry for well over a decade. It is cathartic for me to write. And typically I write about my intersections, and faith is always part of that. So I will read this and then reflect on it. Where is God? Where is God? You know, the God that saves souls, the source of peace and strength, makes people dance and shout because she's made them whole. Where is God? The heroine in so many gospel songs blessed us to be victorious, though perpetually suffering, subjected to so many wrongs.
Decided, oh fuck.
Where is God? God of the coveted canon, beacon of light and love, symbol of strength, power, and might, exemplar of justice, advocate for right. Where is God? Hebrews exited Egypt with herds of cattle, gold and silver in hand, walking to the promised land. But for 400 years, we were enslaved, told broken promises, suffered rampant gentrification. Most of us still ain't got no land. Where is God? Messages of hope preached, told us she'd always be there. If we have faith, pay our tithes, we'd be protected from the devil's snare. Where is God? Black bodies, female, young, trans, infirm, disposable, lacking human value. Too many missing, millions murdered, from all sides attacked, still lacking allies. Where is God? The Prince of Peace, mighty one, fierce roaring lion, defender of the downtrodden, whose house is named refuge. Where is God? Dr. King, champion for civil rights, for Blacks, women, children, the poor. Love and justice he practiced and preached, but religion perpetuates oppression and lies all the more. Where is God? Where is the comforter who descended? Guidance, truth, peace freely she disseminates, empowering the weary human to endure. She takes the place of Christ. Where is God? Structural evil marches forward. Who or what will stand at our defense? Boldly I rise. I am God, for she and I are one. Thank you, thank you. I wrote this in the middle of the pandemic. Like everyone else, we were suffering through many, many stresses. And it was during the height of the pandemic. Not only were humans dying daily in staggering numbers, but fear was infectious and spreading like the plague itself. News reports were incessant due to the ambiguity of the virus and the sheer numbers of those dying. Furthermore, economies came to a screeching halt. Job losses were felt. There's housing insecurity, access to resources and care was significantly reduced. All the while, Black and brown people were murdered by the police, and there were massive global protests. So I typically, when I write a poem, there's a thought or a feeling in my heart, and I hear the first line. And so the first line stays with me until I engage and continue to think and feel it out. And as one who was came up in the Christian tradition. I still am Christian, though I consider myself more of a follower than Christ than subscribing to the institutional Christian church. I was asking myself, where is God? And that poem was what came out of that question. And when I wrote the poem, a lot of people say, you don't question God, but I say, no, you ask God the hard questions. And for my belief system, God responds when you ask God questions. And I felt really empowered. I was like, you know what? We are the body of Christ. We are the arms, the legs. We exemplify love on earth to and with humanity. So yes, there are systemic ills and many issues on this earth, but we should feel empowered and stop waiting for someone else to make things better and do what we can. If it's in our heart, people will feel it and will see God when you love them, when you express care for them, their situations, when you work together and move as a collective, healing one another. And that's it. Thank you so much.